This is Nothing Coherent. I'm Brandon.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Ryan.
So today, since we haven't been here for a while, we're going to try to quickly cover what we've been doing, what we've been watching, what we've been playing. But our big topics, we saw an early screening of Rocket Man. Some of us did. We also all saw John Wick, and then some of us saw Pikachu, so we'll make sure to talk about those. But we'll let Zach start with what he's been playing and watching.
Okay, so because of there being news in Star Wars, I started playing Battlefront 2 again, and I actually convinced one of my friends to start playing it with me. There's a new game mode. It's really fun. The matches take forever, but it's a whole lot more fun when you're playing with friends and you're just running around and doing stuff together. I finally finished Skyrim and the Dawnguard DLC. I really like the ending of that game, actually. I was surprised at how good that story actually is, because I didn't know anything about Skyrim until I started playing it. I started Fallout 3 after that just because I'm on a Bethesda kick right now, again, because I love Bethesda and I'll play anything that they have except for Fallout 76. And Fallout 3 story is really good still. I forgot how good of a main character Liam Neeson is in that game. He's your dad and he's just trying to purify water in the wasteland, and I think that's really cool. I played Jak 2 because the anniversary for it came up. I didn't beat the game yet, but I probably will tonight when I go back home and play some more. I'm on the second to last boss. So I'm actually really far into the game. And then I played a little bit of Friday the 13th. And you actually just mentioned something to me, which is really cool, that Gun Media is doing a Predator game.
You guys really surprised you hadn't heard that?
I just didn't. I haven't kept up as much with news, except for the major things that we're going to be talking about today. But that's pretty much it for what I've played. The only things that I've watched, really, that we all haven't seen together is I saw Endgame again. So now I've seen Endgame 4 times. And I didn't realize this, but somebody pointed out to me as I was leaving the theater, the song that plays at the end of the movie when Cap is dancing with Peggy is the same song that is playing in his apartment when Nick Fury gets shot in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that, and I was like, that's really cool, actually, that they would just even have that as a callback right at the very end. Everything in that movie is just a reference to
There's a
something
meaning
else.
to the song that I can't remember what it was.
It's been a long, long time is what the song is called, and it's all about, a person finally getting to reconnect with somebody that they haven't seen in forever, and I thought that was really awesome. Other than that, the only things that I've watched, really, is Game of Thrones, which the final episode of this season is tonight.
Series.
Yeah.
Final episodes of the series.
Yeah,
tonight.
of the whole series, actually. So that's happening. We'll probably end up talking about that a little bit more in depth here in a minute. And then I also saw Detective Pikachu last week. I know you and I saw that. Yeah. Ryan, have you gotten a chance to see Detective Pikachu yet?
I bought 2 tickets to see it, and I have not been able to go to either one of those things that happened last second.
Well,
I've caught up on every other movie,
yeah,
except Detective Pikachu.
Well, whenever you go finally see Detective Pikachu, tell them you've bought 2 tickets prior, and you demand your Pokemon packs, because they give you packs. There's only 2 cards in them, but
I've dedicated a lot of money to Detective Pikachu without even seeing it.
And then I saw John Wick 3, which all of us saw.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much it for me, so I'll pass it on to you guys.
Yeah, but
I didn't see Rocket Man.
Oh, I thought you...
No, I had to work. I wanted to see it, but I didn't get a chance to go. I will see it, though. It looks really good.
Oh my gosh, there's a mouse in the...
There's a mouse in the studio. Where is it? Hold on.
My friends, they came back.
They found you.
They found me.
I hear you.
I hope that picked up on the audio.
It probably did. He's fine.
You just see the water bottle be dragged off.
There's going to be a whole army just come over the couch.
I'd be kind of mad. Not gonna lie.
So I've been trying to, since school ended, find something to do. So I've invested a lot of time into reading and listening to Warm. It's a audio. Well, it's a web book / audiobook. So at work, I've been listening to it. I really like it. Mm-hmm. I just finished a major story beat, and so I've kind of taken a break for, it's been a day now, or 2 days now. I'm okay, I've gotten a lot in, so I want to just breathe on what information we have. About 7 arcs in, which there are 30.
Okay, yeah. So you're about at the point where our friend told us this is where it starts to get really good.
Yeah, 8 is the one that she said. She said 4 kind of defines it, and then 8 is the
big one.
The big one.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting to the point. That's why I wanted to take a break. I was I want to breathe for a little bit before I get
Yeah.
too much into this. It's basically like a superhero story, but the powers are more grounded, and I think it's interesting that way. It's a little, I'm not going to use the word generic, too convenient in a sense from what's happening so far, but again, early on still, so we'll see. Watched John Wick 1 and 2 leading into 3.
Oh, yeah, I did. I watched that with you as well.
Because my fiance had never seen them, so I was like, well, let's watch them so we can go see the third one. She's very mad when the dog died.
I actually stopped looking at the screen and watched her reaction because I was
she was
just
so
like,
mad.
I was just like, like, this is like the moment from the John Wick series that everybody's going to remember. Like, even more so than any of the kills, you're going to remember the time that Theon Greyjoy came to this universe and killed somebody's dog. Like, that's more evil than anything he ever did on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so it was cool to rewatch them. I think, I don't want to say, I still think the first one is the superior one, like the best one of the 3.
I like it the most,
I do like them all, and we'll talk more about the third one in a little bit. And then I've started playing a lot of games to try to fill the void. I started Days Gone, played about an hour. I think it's okay, but we'll see. I want to get more into it. Started Shenmue 1.
Oh, wow.
The game has not aged very well, and I feel like I'm not appreciating it the way I want to. Started Dragon's Dogma and Final Fantasy 12.
Wow, that's...
And Rage 2, which Rage 2 is the one I put the most time into, so I'm going to quickly touch on it for a minute. I never played Rage 1.
I didn't either.
My brother said it was an average game, but it has a it has a following behind it. Rage 2 is not great. I kind of regret buying it. But I'm going to stick with it for a little bit longer because I can listen to Worm while playing it because it's very mind-numbing gameplay.
Sure.
But it's, yeah. I'll talk more about it when I basically decide I'm done. But as of now, it's not great. So.
For me, mostly, I also watched John Wick 1 and 2 just to be ready. I watched them a couple weeks ago. For the most part, just watching the movies with you guys, or at least
yeah, kind of. Oh,
whatever. Yeah. We all figured that out like 5 minutes ago. I did play a little bit of MLB The Show. Nothing crazy there. I have been playing Batman a little bit.
Oh yeah, bargain binning. We haven't talked about that in a while. How's that going?
Yes. So, here's an interesting story. My TV broke last night. Playing it.
Okay.
No joke. The screen went out. Completely went out. It wasn't my brand new TV.
Oh. I know, that's great.
But it was my other nice TV that I've had for a few years. Don't know why, but I literally looked up and I had it paused and I went to go make pizza rolls and I came back, unpaused it, and it made a little static noise and then it just went black.
Well, the TV's mad you may get pizza rolls.
Or it's mad that I'm playing that game.
Are you enjoying the game at least, or is it bad?
It's pretty rough. I mean, for like a fighting style game to go back that far and like, I don't know. So I haven't gotten that far, but it's just weird to go from the graphics of what we're used to now to that.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest part for me. But I mean, the dialogue and stuff is kind of cringy, but you know.
Yeah, for graphics for me aren't like that big a deal. It's like the gameplay just. I mean, I haven't played it, but like where we are now, how like smooth everything goes, and like now there's like.
Well, and you get stuck on like just little oddball thing. You're trying to just jump or try to just do little.
Oh yeah.
Just little things, just little, and you're like, oh, I forgot how painful this all is for our childhoods that we just kind of adapted to.
Yeah.
We were better warriors back then.
That's what I wondered while playing Madagascar, because everyone's like, it was super easy, and I was like, no, what? No.
I think when we were children, we were so used to all the garbage we had to deal with that like we adapted to it.
We didn't have a concept of what good or bad actually was.
Well, that was good. So
yeah, to us that was good because
that's
the games
what we waited
before,
in line for.
Like NES and Super Nintendo, people were like, these are hard and these are bad. And now it's like the games we had, they're hard and they're bad.
And like our children,
20 years from now, our kids are going to go back and play the games that we're playing now.
Stupid somehow.
They're like, Skyrim is terrible.
If my kids... Wait, what?
Kids like 20 years from now are going to be like, Skyrim is terrible.
If my kids think that freaking God of War is bad, I'm gonna beat them with a game.
Well, I mean, there's still like the good games that came from our childhood that we'd still probably replay.
Oh, there's a lot I'd say I replay.
But yeah, so
I
like that would be like a God of
childhood.
War to us now. Like
Yeah.
some of them are gonna make it. But
Hopefully.
then some of them,
Hopefully.
hopefully, and some of them just won't. They just won't make it onto our kids' list of, hey, you have to play these games. And they're like, Dad, this is garbage.
So and you want a PS7? Here's the PS4 that I had. Here's God of War. Beat this, and we'll talk.
That's ancient, Dad.
We don't even have a TV to play it on. Everything's beamed to our eyes. I'll just be crying in the corner.
Just have
Anyway.
an old rusty TV in the back. You just kind of crank it on.
Or old 40-inch
Yeah.
plasma TVs, and they're like, look at how videos used to be viewed.
Well, and
What's a VCR?
I went to Best Buy last night just to look between the movies.
Oh yeah.
To look at a TV, and they have 8K now, which I know that's been kind of talked about.
Yeah. So the discussion with 8K is that like with our Wi-Fi, we're not there yet for it to stream. It's more like a safety or future proof.
It's a flex.
Kind of like even like Google Stadia, like it can't. Yeah, future wise, it 100% could stream 8K. The internet is not there, and like
We're not very close to it, but you're like, I'm like, dude, I'm just barely getting the 4K. I've got one
Yeah.
4K TV. Like, come on, let's just slow it down here a little
Yeah.
bit. Give us some time. I mean, most households don't even have. I mean, if you have the newer Xboxes and stuff, they can play the 4K, but most people don't even have a 4K player yet. So, I don't know. I'm just like,
no, I agree.
and every time I get a TV, I always try to one up what I already have,
Yeah.
just to keep it going. So, and I'm like, I don't like. Do I get it bigger or like? I can't get an 8K. I'm not gonna pay $4,000 for any. It won't matter. I can't play anything on it. I can't
Yet.
watch any movies. Yeah.
Yeah, the big thing that everyone talks about is the Dolby. I think it's called. It starts with an A. Atmos. I'm gonna say is what it's called, but it's like a new audio thing that just. I guess it sounds like incredible. And currently, the only console that can do it is the Xbox One X. But I guess like if you do get that, either their surround sound or their headphones, it's like incredible, like how it sounds. So I'm super curious to see.
There's mosquitoes.
Yeah, there's a lot of bugs in here. I'm super curious to see what the future looks like with that. If sound is where our next improvements are, if we're going to keep
And
trying out
I
the video.
think that's where it's going to have to be, just because 4K for us is just so great right now,
Yeah.
and we're still catching up. So I mean, the sound quality and stuff, of course, but which is crazy because we always forget about sound because you're like, okay, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Like if you get the little things in the game and stuff, and you've got surround sound. I play always in surround sound, so sometimes when someone's sneaking up on you behind you or something, you catch that. Or
You throw your controller backwards and you're like, oh yeah, it's in the game. Calm down.
someone's about to attack me. Call the police.
Do you have anything else you do before we start getting into?
I probably do, but
I know
to
it's
be
the-
honest,
the problem has been-
there's
we've
I don't
been-
know, when we go through gaps of like a 2 to 3 week gap, like I'm like trying to remember everything,
Yeah.
but at the same time I'm like, let's just focus on the news. That's all the stuff that we really want to talk about right now.
So before we get into the news, mainly we'll let. Yeah, this is gonna be interesting to talk about. Let's talk about Game of Thrones.
Okay, we'll start this off fresh then. Okay,
So I want to set the. Me and Zach both have a general idea of what's happening tonight, due to leaks and the internet. I won't say
Imploding on itself.
Yeah, I won't say we've given up, but I know you've enjoyed it more than we have.
yeah, and we've had a little bit of conversation, but basically we're in reference to last episode, which would be episode 5 of
Danny-
season 8 or
Yeah.
So I guess we haven't recorded
Gosh.
since before the Battle of Winterfell.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
Yeah,
So
we
should actually
recorded
back
the day
up.
of. Yeah.
Yeah, so just for quick tidbits, I think Battle of Winterfell, for me, ignoring the whatever the weird visual that it's dark and then being like, this is how we want it shot, and the whole like cinematographer, everyone lashing out at everyone. Ignoring that, I didn't like the fight. Actually, that was like one of the worst battles in Game of Thrones. I thought it was very pointless, and the Night King story sucked, at least in the contents of Game of Thrones, for me. Granted, you could do a spin-off show and redeem it, but I think at this point, for me, that's just covering your butt after you already made this and you just want to get it done. Like,
See, for me, the whole appeal of even watching Game of Thrones was the fact that they were talking and hyping up that battle so much. And everybody was like, oh, like, this is going to be the biggest battle of all time. And I felt like the stakes didn't feel nearly as high as they wanted them to feel. I felt
Yeah.
like apart from Jorah dying, like everybody who died, like I wasn't connected to. I didn't feel for them as much, except for the little girl who killed the giant. And then she came
and
back.
even her, she was like, it wasn't that important.
She wasn't a
important
major
enough for me to
character.
be
I was
like,
just
oh.
like, if we would, I mean, we also lost Theon, and he's been in the show since the very beginning. But like,
A little bit of Phil's. He had a good story.
I liked him standing off to the Night King, but he didn't do anything. You know, like he immediately gets killed.
We're at the point though with Game of Thrones that we always have everything because everything's built up so much that if they don't build it up even more, or they don't, some of those characters you could consider wasted, or they're like, well, they could have had a, but I mean, the objective is, well, it's hard to go through this whole thing. My biggest problem, I'll start with this, is the Night King. I don't have as many problems with Game of Thrones as some people. I've talked to you guys a little bit about it, and I've talked to other people. The Night King, first, there wasn't any awesome battle at the end with the Night King, like a 1v1.
Yeah, he just kind of dies.
Yeah, and he never really does too much except kills a dragon, basically. So, it's kind of he's kind of the villain that just literally lurks in the shadows, and you don't know what's going to happen, and then usually those villains are the ones that you want to see something like, okay, you've been building this up.
Right.
I want to see what this guy is really made of.
But like even in that battle, he doesn't really do anything.
Well,
he just raises some dead people, and that's it.
And that's kind of the point. And it reminds me of like an actual game character, like where it's like like the supporter, like if you're in a game.
He's like the support
class He's more
character.
literally a support. He's just like healing people and like bringing them up or whatever. That's what he reminds me of, just kind of walking around, dude. Staying behind the scenes, but comes into action when he has to and then retreats back to his little, well, whatever. So my biggest problem was the whole Night King. I love that Arya Stark killed him. I think that was appropriate. I think with everything, as much as of a character build-up for her and all the stuff that she goes through and all the training that she goes through and all that, like, awesome. Like, I'm completely okay with how he dies. It's more of... And even if he had a fight and then it came down to that scene right before she kills him and it's about to be donezo for him, I'd be completely okay with that. But there wasn't really anything. He just kind of marching along. They're doing all this stuff out in the front. I think the couple of cool scenes is, when they have the flames, they go out there or whatever, and they all start going out. Or
that
whatever.
was actually a really
That
cool
was kind
shot.
of and there's a lot of memes that came out of that, but I appreciate the memes for that. But
That's the best part of this whole season.
The darkness factor, just like you were saying, I don't have a problem with it because it's realistic. I mean, to the point, and I'm siding a little bit more than I usually would with a show, but I guess for me, the lighting wasn't a big deal for me. It was big enough as
I'm saying,
people.
Setting that aside, plot-wise, episode 3 sucked. There is, besides Arya's kill, that was entirely pointless because this was Jon's story. The whole series led into two big things. Dany's war and Jon's war. Jon's story was leading to the Night King, and Dany's was leading to King's Landing. Jon's ends in probably the most pitiful way, to where Jon did nothing the entire episode. Absolutely nothing. Doesn't get to fight the Night King, which I didn't care if he killed him, I just wanted to fight with him. Instead he does nothing against him. Jon's character arc this entire season has been very pointless, besides screwing Dany over.
Yeah.
I love Jon, he's my favorite, but he has just felt so stupid and pointless, and that's... Episode 3 was, so in my opinion, 1 through 3 and 4 through 6, we'll say, should have been 2 seasons and built up in a different way, given more time to explain each character, give Night King more, and then kill off a few more main characters in whatever, season 8, and then season 9 could have been the final season. But that's how I feel, at least with Jon and their story ending in episode 3.
Yeah.
And this is what also bothers me, is now episode 2, granted, depending on how tonight goes, there's a lot of character arcs that wrap up there that I felt wrapped up because of the battle that was coming. And then, all the moments I was like, well, that was really touching. Well, now you lived. So, Brienne's character became just, Oh my gosh.
She's just there.
Yeah,
It's
I
obsolete at
hated
this
how
point.
emotional she got over Jamie. Like, I get it. I get that, like... I'm trying to be kind. And anyway, but I think there's just a lot of character arcs that I think just start to fall apart in this season, which sucks, from, like, redemptions to downfalls to characters that I didn't think I would see go this way. Episode 3 is kind of where it starts. 1 and 2, I was kind of like, I can see where we're going. These aren't bad.
You're building up, and and we're patient with those episodes because there's so much going on. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think it needed at least a couple more episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen tonight. You guys have an idea, but whatever happens tonight, obviously, is going to dictate how I feel about obviously the whole season.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to be like careful of, because if tonight's episode goes, I think I know how everything's going to end. But granted, if tonight's episode, if it's well executed, which I didn't like how last episode was executed.
I don't. My other thing too is I don't see how it's all going to be
explained in
one episode.
Right, I feel like there's just too much
things
content
tied together, and they're already killing
addressed.
people out left and right, or trying to end their stories, basically leaving them out and about.
There's going to be a lot of characters who probably won't even appear in this final episode.
And I would probably agree with that. The other thing is they're being left at different places right now, right?
Yeah.
So if they don't revisit those characters, which I don't know how you do that. This is like an end game kind of scenario of trying to get minutes to all the characters to conclude everything, right? And to maybe open up a possible door later on. I guess they could do that kind of thing with a new additional problem. I guess I don't know. I don't think they're going to do that because I don't know how they would have enough time to conclude something.
Right. We know there are 3 spinoffs in the work. 1 is a prequel. We don't know what the other 2 are. Just for record. So that's where my problem comes in, is that
Tormund and Ghost.
This may be something where they leave it up in the air a little bit, and we go through this whole 2-year gap again of.
Right. Well, we know the next one is a prequel, so it could be. I don't want to say it could be anywhere between 5 to 7 years before we see a continuation, not a in universe of Game of Thrones. Which that's my conundrum, is that would I watch a continuation? Would I want to see more based off of how I felt at this ending?
Well, and I think you're right. If there is that big of a gap, and this conclusion doesn't really get it for us or most of the fans, then no one's going to want to wait. It's a Star Wars kind of thing where you're still going to have the following, right? But people aren't going to be as excited for it if they have to wait, 3 years, and that last bit wasn't
right. When you end, and that's what my I guess Star Wars Episode 9. That's my worry about it with Last Jedi. Last Jedi is the last thing you had in your mouth, main story wise. Mm-hmm. So going into 9, there's a lot of people who I know aren't excited for it because even I don't think there's anything in the world, even trailer wise, that could sell them, because Last Jedi's trailer.
And we watch everything, so that doesn't
it doesn't matter.
For
me, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me as much. I'm still excited to see what they have. I'm a little nervous, obviously, like we would be. If Game of Thrones came back in 2 years, we would all be sitting here watching it, talking about it. But are we going to be excited if they screw this one up tonight? No. I don't think we're going to be as excited about it.
Right, and that's what I would say. If they were hey, we got one more season coming out, and then I would be more
And you talk about all the fans that came on the last season or so, just because of the hype.
Oh, yeah, we know 2 people who came on.
Binged watched it and all that. And this has been years. Some people have watched it from the very, very beginning, and some people have caught on second and third season and stuff. But they've lived through this whole kind of thing, and so it's a little bit more meaningful, and it's a little bit more of a stab kind of
right.
Thing.
I've been watching. I wanted to look what year it started, but I've been watching since season 2 wrapped up, and so for me, that just feels like it's been such a long time of this. I mean, granted, I knew at the end of the day I wasn't going to get exactly what I wanted. But what I'm getting is not what I imagined at all, and so that's why I've been super I'm getting more and more negative as the show progresses, because I'm
I've been trying to keep an open mind.
2012/2013 is when I started watching.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, let's talk about the most recent episode 4 and 5.
I've been watching since 2013.
So, my biggest problem with episode 4 was how the dragon died.
Oh my gosh.
That just felt so incredibly forced, because they were well, we got to kill one of the dragons. Because, like, the ships are around the side of the cliff or whatever. You don't even see the boats. And then all of a sudden, this dragon gets hit by 3 different, like, scorpion arrows out of nowhere. First off, why is Dany even flying that low to where ships can, like, hit her dragons when they know she's coming to King's Landing?
Well,
like, that just seems so out of character for her to do that.
What bothered me so much about that, do you watch the After Thrones where they talk for a little bit? So in it, they're like, she forgot about the Golden Company. And I was like...
But they literally show her...
Yeah, in the scene before she leaves, she mentions the Golden Company. And so I'm like, really? You couldn't have just, like, ignored that? If you'd removed that one plot point, maybe I'd have been like, okay. But, like, it's so...
It felt very forced to be like, she just forgot.
Which then, with how they shot it down, frustrates me with the next episode, how
and
totally...
and they've got even
Yeah,
more, and they're, like, going ham. And
she's just got, like, this plot armor all of a sudden.
One of the things is she is riding the dragon.
Sure.
And that's the same dragon she's been with the whole time.
Right.
So they're probably a little bit more, they've been together in war, basically. So maybe give her a few points. Okay. It's like directing something. Well, she's probably going to be a little bit more knowledgeable than the dragon is on maybe how to maneuver or something like that. But at the same time, these guys have been like sharp shooters and stuff with these arrows, and now they can't hit her at all. And they've got like 5,000 more.
And it does frustrate me that like there's no way that she couldn't have seen them. Like they come out behind some rocks, so I'm like, okay, if they were like super low to the ground, you couldn't see that, sure.
But she's like way up in the air.
Yeah, when they show the dragon falling, she would have seen everything. So I'm like, in the books, this is what frustrates me. In the books, Euron is like does black magic. So if they had just explored that a little bit and then said he could like cloak everything, so like she couldn't have seen them. How hard would that have been to explain that? Mm-hmm. But whatever. Mm-hmm. Show-wise, what we're getting is, like, it's just frustrating because, like, I feel like that was such a dumb death.
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't have mind. Now, granted, let's say if they had saved the dragon for episode 6 or 5.
And one of them died there.
Yeah, one died on their way to King's Landing to show that, like, there was...
That would have justified that a lot more for me, that specific episode.
Let's go ahead and get into episode 5 here.
So at the end of episode 4, Missandei dies. Like, she gets killed by Cersei. She has her head chopped off. And then, like, we're going right into that in episode 5. It's, like, right after, and she executes Varys.
Yeah, because Varys has been telling people that Jon is... Aegon Targaryen, right? Is that Aegon?
Yeah. So I heard a theory that Varys was actually trying to poison Daenerys.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true.
He talks about, well, I mean, how I would take it, and I mean how everyone's taking it, is he talks about how she needs to get back to the kitchen, how the guards are watching, and so he's probably trying to poison her because he's like she hasn't eaten for 3 days, and so
yeah. So like they're doing little things throughout the episode to help me understand like that Dany's going crazy. Like, now that I've, like, sat down and really digested it, I'm more okay with the episode than when I first watched it.
I'm okay with parts of it, but
I think it's visually stunning, and I love, like, a lot of the moments in the episode. I love that when the Lannister soldiers put their weapons down, we finally see the blur of, like, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys at this point. I love seeing Jon kill one of his own soldiers because his soldiers were doing what he told them not to do, which was rape and pillage, because that's not what they were there for. And instead you actually see the Lannister soldiers like saving people and trying to make sure that they're okay. I'm like, who am I supposed to like?
One of the things that echoes off this
R. Martin does really well.
War is war. No matter what, there's two sides to it.
Right.
And even if we think, if one side thinks that they're the bad guys, that side still thinks they're the bad guys. So, most cases, one side is not completely right than the other, right? So, obviously, there's innocence, and there's usually war rules of not doing certain things, which those are obviously broken, and that's why Jon's so upset and all that. So, what we're going to boil down to is why did she burn down everything?
Let's pause for a second before getting into that. I want to talk about one other thing, Cersei. What did Cersei even do this season?
She killed Missandei.
Yeah, but I mean, she literally
I feel
just
like they
there.
didn't have enough for her to do this season,
and that's one of my problems. Cersei,
you don't have enough anger towards her at this point.
Well, and there was a point where I pitied Cersei.
Yeah. I was like, this is sad. Like, and maybe that was the point for us to be like, okay, like there comes a point where like this is too much. and like maybe that's. And
And
I mean,
that's-
I guess that's effective.
Well, I mean, like,
because
if
That's
you
I'm
how I
upset with
appreciate
Jamie.
Game of Thrones in a certain way is that you can't be, and you're one of the first people that told me you can never get tied to a character.
Yeah.
No matter what, I mean, and you're taking that more as anybody can die, but at the same time you could take it to the next level and say, you want this person to live, you want this person to be the next whatever, take the throne or whatever the case may be. And we look at Cersei as the bad guy and stuff, but her own perspective and her own kind of thing, you do sympathize. In that episode, I sympathized for her because I'm like, okay, her kids have died, and at the very beginning they had told her that all three kids were going to die, or witch, or
There's a vision she had,
or the
which
vision, yeah,
also
I'm trying to
is
remember
the
that.
prophecy is totally retconned because she didn't die the way the prophecy said she would.
at the hands of her brother or whatever.
Yeah, which you could
I mean,
In the
people
hands
have,
of her brother.
people have
You
used
could
the
try.
cop out that Jamie led her down there.
she'd be choked by her
Yeah.
brother. She'd be choked to death by her brother.
Well, and they also show like when he's like holding her, his hands are near her throat, so like he doesn't actually choke her, but like I've seen people on the internet talking about that. I'm like, no.
Maybe he like choked her before they
Yeah.
just
Right as
strangled
soon as the
her.
rebel starts, she's like, okay, we gotta do this.
He's
But
like,
here's
I don't want her to die by the rocks.
let me pause on what I'm talking about with Cersei. One, I did feel pity, but two, Cersei has been such a character with like a plan. She's always 10 steps ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
I felt like in this moment they're like, we need to just show Dany being a villain, which I'm gonna side note Dany's thing in a minute.
Yep,
But
I want
my problem is I felt like Cersei was not any moves ahead. Was not planning for it. And I get that she had this huge army. She had everything. She was like, here it all is.
And her main plan is that she was hoping the Night King would take care of
Yeah,
all of
everything,
them or
and then-
anything or whatever, and she wasn't expecting how much. And then when they start getting the reports, okay, they're a little stronger than they look or
Yeah.
whatever, and blah
Yeah,
blah blah.
because she was like, all it
But
takes
I
is one
almost
good
felt
shot
like-
to kill a dragon, and
I-
after that, it's like you have
and-
no plan.
And I think the biggest problem with Game of Thrones right now is we have to guess a lot more than what they're telling us, or they're relaying
'cause
back to us,
yeah.
at
this
least
season
giving us
has
clues.
like this season is like the last two books which haven't even come out yet.
So,
Kind
but
of,
before I get into that, the only thing that I feel with Cersei is that once she starts getting the reports or whatever, that hey, she's like, I have faith a little bit, but at the same time, deep down, I think she's like, I'm screwed at this point.
Yeah.
And I feel like with her having the kid and everything, that she's worn down and she's done, and she wants to live and she wants to have the baby, but then once it starts coming closer and closer, you just realize that she had too much confidence in her army because she thought her plan was always going to win. But you have to also think the Lannisters always think that they're better than everybody else. So she is confident. Her dad was the same way. They always, throughout the whole series, they always thought that they were going to trump anybody. I mean, and there may be certain parts you could pick out of that, but anytime there's any interactions with that, of taking over other armies or, plowing over anybody in war or whatever, they always were arrogant about it. And I feel like that was just some of it that finally got to her at the very end.
Yes.
And then once she realizes it, she doesn't have any other plan because she thought she was already 5 steps ahead of the game.
To talk about Lannisters real quick before I forget, I also think Tyrion is like the worst written character of all time now. Like, I feel like he's just so stupid compared to being the smartest character in the show. I feel like since they've left R.R. Martin's writing, he's just gone downhill. It's just it frustrated me. Just want to point that out. We can disagree on that, but that's just how I feel, and I think I'm going to feel that even more tonight. But we'll see.
And I'm not going to disagree with.
I did really like the scene with him and Jamie though in the last episode.
That was the best scene of the season.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that he was smart. I'm saying that what I mean is before I would consider Tyrion the smartest character in the show.
Right.
Even Daenerys is we'll need your brain when we're finished.
And he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, he's been really pointless. He's caused Varys' death for no reason, which I get Varys is betraying her, but even to some extent,
Yeah, no, Varys didn't need to die.
Yeah.
You could have just said nothing
Yeah.
and Varys wouldn't have found out. And if Varys didn't know, then nobody would know.
If
this
episode, if he does something crazy and he could redeem himself, but yeah.
we'll see. We'll see tonight.
And I mean,
so,
I really don't like Sansa anymore.
I never liked Sansa, so I don't know what everyone was.
I didn't dislike her, but now I just don't.
She's such
like
a bland character in the mix of all this.
I will say this though, she is playing the game, the Game of Thrones. She's learned it really well because of Littlefinger and Cersei and everybody. when John told them, I was like, Sansa's going to be the one to screw this up for everybody. And, like, I was just like, man, there's no reason for her to not trust Dany. And at that point, she just made an enemy of a freaking Targaryen.
In the mix of everything, if that's what her eye's really on, which I don't think it really is, but maybe.
I don't think so.
Then she's doing it right. I mean, she's kind of involved just enough to know what everything's going on, but she's not in the middle of everything.
Okay, so we should talk on the big thing, because we need to address the dragon in the room of Dany's turn. Yeah, that's what the smoke is right there.
Oh.
It's a little dragon. So Dany's turn, for me, okay, if you had built this up for a little bit longer and shown more of the descent, I actually didn't want Dany on the Iron Throne in the end anyway. So for me, Dany was not my choice. I actually thought she would die in some way, but what happens in this episode when she turns frustrates me, and I get that everyone references all the stuff she's done before. But all the stuff she's done before has been towards slave traders and rapists.
Right, that's why I'm like, you can't use that as an argument. Everything that she's burned before, or like everybody she's killed, they've been horrible people.
Yeah, the people, like, the only two innocents she's killed were Sam's brother and dad. But that's because, like...
That was because they wouldn't bend the knee, and she kept her word. She was like, I will burn you alive if you don't bend the knee. Like, I'm your queen. That is no different than what any other king or queen has done on this show.
Yeah, and now my biggest problem is her burning the innocents. If she had went and just blew Cersei up and that was the end of it, I'd have been like, okay, whatever.
That was where she lost me.
Yeah.
I was like, that's too much. That's too far. Like, what she did was worse than the wildfires that they actually had set up across King's Landing.
I'm going to go back to our conversation just for a split second, then I'm going to add something onto it. With the Dragon dying episode before...
And I get that her madness is shown more and more.
Yeah, no, that's not where I'm going. If that dragon had died in this episode, that she went crazy, like right in front of her or something, and Cersei, like, or something, and she witnessed that dragon just die, like, right there, and she went crazy. We're looking for reasons why she went crazy, right? And this is where Brandon and I are going to disagree.
Bells.
The bells. They set her off. She had flashbacks.
That's what they even said that. They said the bells are what triggered her.
Yeah. Well, but, I mean, I don't think that's what... That may have been, like, the set point of, like, okay, this is time, whatever, sound. But my thing is we all know she was part of the Mad King. She's got the Mad King blood in her, right? With unpredictability and anger and all that. I mean, if I was her, obviously I'm not her, and I don't have any anger towards anything that's going on. But if you're in her shoes, and all these people, she hates Cersei so much at this point, and she's the only threat really to her in her eyes, I think, to the throne. And all these people already know her. And maybe she thinks that Cersei's already told everybody that she's crazy and blah, blah, blah. I don't really know, but she just wants to eliminate that. And for me, with her just having that spontaneous decision at that point, I don't see a major problem. I don't want her to do that. But I don't see, and for her to have some of that, they've been hinting that she has, they've continuously, she is part of the Mad King is, I mean, there's a lot of correlation with all that throughout previous seasons. I don't really see it being that crazy big of a surprise that she just went crazy.
Okay. So my problem with the argument would be more you're referencing of that Cersei has told her people that she's crazy.
Well, maybe, and she wants to eliminate that. But that's even besides the point.
But none of them like Cersei. We all know that, like, nobody in King's Landing really likes Cersei. And so, like, I feel like that argument is kind of stupid. In the sense of, like, Dany has all this history behind her. Yes, the Mad King's there, but she's proven time and time again that we are not our parents. We are not, like... Jon is so much of Ned in that one moment of trust, which it frustrates me so much. I know Ned's not his dad, but come on. It's showing that the whole show built up that they were not their, like, parents. They were not, like, what came before. They're different. They're the new generation. They're the next in line. They're supposed to be something separate. And hold on. so when they talk about, like, maybe Cersei said that. Maybe she was like, hey, she's crazy. She's the Mad King's daughter.
And that's not even what I'm really focusing on my argument. My argument is that she's related to the Mad King, and the Mad King's mad, right? Crazy. Spontaneous. Yeah. If there's anything that has anger, that even a little bit of that,
well, that's what I'm saying is that
it shows that.
I think it's been dumb that the show let up that we aren't our parents, and then in this one moment she turns to be her parent.
Well, but that's the thing
like,
about Game of Thrones is everything's, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's what my biggest thing is I don't know. John,
there's a difference between unpredictability and stupid writing.
And if you want to say it's stupid writing, then it is stupid writing to you. But and it may be it's not what we want, and it doesn't sound right, and because we think that we can justify what they're going to write, and maybe and ideally, like for her, like cool, like she did her thing. I don't have a problem with it as much. Did I not want that to happen? I didn't want that to happen at all. I didn't want her to kill all those innocent people. No one wanted her to kill innocent people. But at the same time, it shows that there's still a little bit that always kind of follows. And yeah, you're wanting the good story and stuff, but there is always the bad story.
But I feel like it wasn't really shown up until this last few episodes.
Right, like I agree. I feel like there's a lot more telling and not showing in this season.
And that's what we referenced before. And I completely agree with it. That's the biggest problem with this.
I feel like it's just super
we're assuming a lot of things right now.
No, I'm not assuming. I'm telling you that watching the show again, I don't think it ever really led up that there was any Mad King in her. That this was ever going to be an inevitability outside of maybe her blowing up the Red Keep. I don't think it was ever led up that she was going to kill innocent people. I don't think Dany's turn made sense, and that's what I'm saying. Dany's turn does make sense on paper if you were like, hey, here's a full season of her continually losing battles. Her doing the Night King's War and losing everything during that. Continually looking out for other people, but instead in 2 episodes you want me to believe that Dany turns like this. And this is where Game of Thrones, for me, unless tonight changes my mind, is no longer one of my favorite TV shows of all time.
And that's fair. I mean, that's your own opinion. But I'm just saying, if you have a correlation with anything with Mad in it, it's unpredictable. I mean, even if they're crazy, a crazy person, you can't predict a crazy person. And a crazy person can do something great for a long time, and then that one action can dictate them as being a crazy person. So
I agree with that, but the problem is we already have said, there has been no indication that Dany herself is crazy. Like, just because she's a Targaryen doesn't mean that she's crazy. Jon's a Targaryen, and he's not running through the streets and butchering innocent people or anything. He's actually reacting and being like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. Whereas Dany's just like, screw them all, kill everybody, kill everything. And it just feels... So I'll say this. There's a quote that they say right before that episode starts, and it's the quote, every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin, and the world watches and waits to see what side it sits on. So maybe Jon and Daenerys are 2 sides of that coin. Jon is the Targaryen that the people want, and Dany is the Targaryen that people fear. I can kind of see that, and that might go into tonight's episode.
I just recognize there's an additional pressure for her. I mean,
sure.
Where you're like about to explode kind of thing. She has lost a lot
in such a short amount of time, especially in the last
with
episode.
Jon not wanting to be with her anymore.
Right.
And,
like, there's some stuff going in, and I'm just like...
Her whole world that she knew before that...
Right.
Basically has fell apart, and she doesn't even know if she can trust the people around her.
Right, but
Varys is trying to kill her. I mean, when you think about the beginning of the episode, and he's trying to kill her, or they poison her or whatever, and I don't know, and she's starting to get... She doesn't even know if she can trust the people around her at that point. And her best friend basically just died the episode before.
She even says, let it be fear. Like, so I get that, but for me, I was just like, the one thing that she did wrong was burning innocent people. If she would have just immediately flown to Red Keep, which is what I think everybody thought she was going to do, it would have been done. Like, there was no reason for her to, like, burn innocent people versus the whole reason she's there is to take the Iron Throne from Cersei.
Right, and even if we wanted... So let me pause then. Even if we wanted to take just episode 5 and be like, this character arc is stupid, I think all the writing is stupid throughout the entire season that has led to this moment. I feel like none of it has been earned or justified over the last 7 seasons that led into this 8th season. And that's my problem. I feel like the 8th season overall has been very poor and very weirdly paced to the point where, like, episode 1, looking back on that now, I'm like, you had 6 episodes, and this first episode is like, I felt like was
There was
very
not that
pointless.
much.
There
Yeah,
was
there was
nothing
not
that
that much
happened.
Like,
going on.
Episode 2 is the best episode of this season.
Yeah.
And it would have been even better if we would have gotten the consequences of episode 3 and moving forward. Like, Danny losing Jorah and then Missandei back-to-back episodes is really good, but for everybody else, they don't really lose anything. I feel like if you would have made this season maybe even 2 episodes longer or so and just focused on one entire episode of Danny reflecting on everything she's done up to this point, I think the transition to her killing everybody in King's Landing would have been better received. That's just me.
I just visualize it when someone has so much stuff going on.
Yeah, like
and they
I
finally
get it.
just hit it. I mean, obviously she's under a lot of stress. You can even see she's having issues with Sansa and all that. Like, there's just a lot of trust issues on the back front, and now she's realizing that she doesn't have the people that care about her, and then she already broke up everything. So, and then all the other deaths and everything. Obviously, you just mentioned. I think that at one point, and she's lost her 2 other dragons. I mean, when you think about how much she's lost and just what the anger built up, I get your guys' point. Like, I'm not disagreeing completely, but like you get to that point and you just finally just blow. And I think when they say the bells or whatever, it just triggers it, right? And if we can agree that that's what blew her over the edge, and maybe that's not characteristic of her. Most people that get angry are not characteristic of who they normally are, unless they're just normally just angry or violent all the time, right? And so you usually do unpredictable things. It's like someone punching a wall, and you're like, what the heck? You're like, why did you do that? But they went over that. Obviously, you're like, innocent people, Ryan. Innocent people. I get that it's innocent people. She has a fiery dragon right in the hands, and all it takes is 5 seconds of making the wrong mistake, and then you're like, well, let's just let it all burn.
Well, even that, I feel like all the writing, all the moments and decisions that have been made, especially like in the battles, has been stupid. Like, the entire fight, the Battle of Winterfell, what the F? Why did they not fly with the dragons, wipe out everything? Why wasn't it lit up before?
Yeah.
Why was everyone out there just ready to die? Like, that entire fight I felt was so stupid. And, like, very pointless, and was very, like, unplanned. Because when she finally goes out there and start lighting up, I'm like, why did you do that from the beginning?
Yeah,
like,
and that's what we don't, like, I don't understand that. Even when they're going over the game plan and stuff, you're just kind of like...
Yeah, and then the writers, and this is kind of what...
The writers keep justifying things that people are complaining about.
Well, the writers, even in the episode, was just like, well, we didn't want to give them a super easy victory, so we made them make dumb decisions. And I'm like, why? What was the point of just being like, hey, these characters have been super intelligent the entire way through, great tacticians, they're just dumb for this fight. Like, there could have been such cool ways to do the fight, and I just feel like starting there, this is what I'm saying, episode 3, where dumb decision after dumb decision is happening because the writers just want to, like, get us through.
Now, I will mention, let's focus on a positive here that we can probably all agree on. The brothers.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we get to that?
Yes.
Because I loved that fight. I loved everything with Arya in episode 5. Like her going to King's Landing and then being told, you should leave. I loved that goodbye scene, and I loved seeing her point of view with the dragon destroying the city.
Cinematically wise, I think that's one of the best things I've seen in a long time, of her just running through this.
I kind of wish we'd followed Jon instead of her.
Jon would have been nice. Because,
or Davos.
Yeah, no, because I think we know for a fact that Jon is going to be the main character of the next episode. Him and Dany, like, this is going to be all about them.
Showtime, yeah.
Like, so... I did like, though, that when we see Arya and the Hound going into the Red Keep, like the lady and the child that she cuts off, the first person that she sees and she tries to help is the lady and the child that she cut off from getting inside. So, like, and she's like, you've got to get up, you've got to go, and, like, all these people around her are dying, and, like, it really sets in the terror that it's such a strong character like that is powerless to what's happening. So, like, taking a character that everybody really cares about, because almost everybody I know is like, Arya's my favorite. It's like Arya or Jon, Tyrion, and Daenerys. Those are, like, the 4 that I always hear from people. Like, over the course of the show, that's been my favorite character.
But now, aren't we just Starks fans? I mean, are we just, like, wanting them to
I've always been Team
Jon.
Yeah, and I have always wanted Jon to win, but I'm saying...
I wanted Rob.
Yeah, but, I mean...
He didn't make it very far.
He did make it somewhere, though. We'll talk later in another movie.
Oh.
He's in Rocket Man.
Oh, okay.
Which I gotta tell you, when we get to Rocket Man, I'll tell you my story.
Yeah, we've got so much to talk about.
So Game of Thrones, next week's episode will probably be fully dedicated to it. I want to kind of just...
and we can talk about everything.
Yeah.
And really dissect it.
Once it's done, it'll be easier for me to
anything... Now, let's see. Aladdin comes out this Thursday?
We have Aladdin, so if you see Aladdin this weekend...
I probably will.
So Aladdin and Game of Thrones will be next week. And that will be our goal is next week. We'll talk about those. Play whatever you want, but because we got some movies.
We got a lot. Yeah, we got a lot.
So we're just gonna...
Here.
What's the biggest news stories? Oh, that sucks.
Xbox, PS4.
Okay, so we're going to quickly hit 3 of them. I know Zach wrote down one. In-game is the second highest grossing domestic film of all time behind Star Wars.
Force Awakens is number 1 at like $900-something million.
Yeah, domestically.
Yeah. And in-game, when I checked today, was at $780 million. And that's clearly gone up.
John Wick finally took it down.
Yeah, fine. But I mean, like that it was inevitable.
Yeah.
Inevitable. Like something was going to come out that would make more than 50. And anyway,
I find it funny that it was John Wick, though, because they were all these memes with Avengers.
All the memes of
John Wick finally did it.
Thanos snapping John Wick's dog, and he just is sweating.
So, quickly, Xbox and Sony is a big deal, but also today there's a rumor that came out that Nintendo is also going to be part of that partnership.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me considering that Xbox and Nintendo have already been, kind of like, hey, we'll do things together like via Game Pass.
So
and
just
everything.
to clarify what this means is it means they're using their servers for the streaming. It does not mean that they're partnering to be like on each other's platforms.
Right.
It just means that Sony is paying Microsoft to use their servers.
Which is a big step.
You're right, it is. It's huge. So just for the record, so people aren't like, we're going to get a Smash Brothers, that's all of their characters, or Halo's going to be on PlayStation 4. Or...
My big thing is like...
This is a big step.
I feel like
it is.
I feel like
potentially
in the future, probably 2 or 3 years from now, third-party games are probably all going to be crossplay, like how Fortnite is. I think that's the big step that they're going towards. And then it's just going to be, well, we have this exclusive, you have that exclusive. Maybe they can work out party deals where it's like, oh, you can play as this skin in this game on this console, and that's like the extent of it.
I do think what it really will come down to is that like each console will be a box that you're just streaming towards, and I think that's where we're getting in probably like 10, 15 years. Is that we will have disc, but they're going to be like very like...
It's going to be install it and then you don't need it.
Yeah. Or it's just like if you want to play 4K native without like worrying about your Wi-Fi, that's what the disc is for, but these boxes are made for...
They're made for directly streaming, yeah.
I don't want to touch on this too much because I think with E3 coming up, Microsoft said they've got some big stuff, so I want to wait and save
probably
this.
Hear a lot more
I want to table this discussion because it's in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
E3's coming up.
Crazy.
So like I want to table this one until then. Real quickly, Star Wars just has 3 new release dates. Confirms that they're doing the 3-year break.
Yep.
And then they've said that in the 3-year break, there's going to be a 3rd live-action series. A lot of people are speculating Obi-Wan, but we'll see because it's Mandalorian. This year, next year is Rogue One. The year after is the Hidden One. And then we've got the Star Wars coming back.
I think this is a good move for the movies.
They need a break.
They need a break. As much as I hate not seeing Star Wars, I don't want us to get overwhelmed, which I think almost everybody's in agreement of that at this point.
Star Wars is something special, and I want it to stay that way.
Exactly, and I don't want them to ruin it by just overdoing it. It's kind of like the prequels to a certain point. Most people, it didn't age very well, and it's kind of a sour taste to some people.
The prequels have aged great.
Yeah.
Today's the 20th anniversary of Phantom Menace.
Yes. It is?
I was gonna
20 years ago, Phantom Menace.
I'm going to go home and watch Phantom Menace tonight.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I know.
That's 20 years.
That was my first Star Wars movie, man.
I saw the original trilogy first.
I didn't. My parents didn't introduce me to it.
So,
you know what? I actually have a quick question for you all. Did you know the Darth Vader twist before you watched the movies, or was it something that you just picked up on before?
So, funny story. I only watched episode 4 and 6 when I was younger.
Oh no!
So I was like, "Well, it's cool that Vader is Luke's dad," without knowing that the twist happened.
Yeah. Okay. So I didn't know that 4, 5, and 6 existed until after Attack of the Clones came out because I wasn't a huge Star Wars fan. So I went to see Attack of the Clones with my dad. And I was talking about how I thought Anakin was the coolest character ever and everything. And he's like, "Oh man, you're gonna hate it when Anakin becomes Darth Vader." Then, and I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, Luke Skywalker." I'm like, "Who's Luke Skywalker?" And he ruined the entire trilogy for me on the drive back home from the theater. He was like, "Yeah, Anakin is a bad guy, and all the Jedi are going to be killed by Anakin. Anakin kills Obi-Wan Kenobi." Like, in the first movie, I was like, but the first movie had Qui-Gon, and I was so confused, and I got so mad that I actually stopped doing anything Star Wars until Revenge of the Sith came out. I was like, I'm so frustrated that this really cool kid, Anakin, is going to become like this most...
This is pod racing!
Listen, I thought Anakin was cool when I was a kid. Like, and I like Anakin in
Welcome
Episode
to
3.
AA. Anakin Anonymous.
But no, so like the Vader twist was ruined for me by my dad because he was like, "Oh yeah, all this happens," and I'm like, "Thanks, Dad." Like,
so I thought when I was little, I watched New Hope, and I thought it was the most boring thing for the first like 30 minutes.
Oh no, I don't think it's aged well.
No, it hasn't really. And I'm like, what is this?
It's just droids walking around.
It just looks just old. And when you're little like that, and they have got all this CGI coming out, and you're like, oh my gosh, everything looks so cool and stuff. You're like, I don't really care.
Who filmed this in some desert?
Yeah, you're like, what is going on here? And so, anyways, I kind of knew what was happening, especially with the games coming out.
Yeah.
Then, because we had like all the.
Oh my gosh, Lego Star Wars game ruined Revenge of the Sith because the game came out before
Oh
the movie.
God, I remember that.
So I got to it, but I was still trying to like correlate. I was about to go into this. I was trying to figure out what was going on when we watched like episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I pictured everything. I knew Anakin was probably going to become Star Wars, but I couldn't remember exactly.
Become Star Wars?
No, I mean become Darth Vader.
He became the Star Wars.
He is Star Wars.
We're Kingdom Hearts now, boys.
What are you talking about? He is Star Wars. We can't have Star Wars after episode 9 because.
Listen, the best character is Jar Jar Binks.
Okay. We're gonna.
You said a Puma.
Funny. I want
a really
quick funny story on Star Wars. My sister knew the Darth Vader twist from the Family Guy specials, but thought that it was a joke. So when we watched it, she was like, "No, this is a joke." Because I made her watch. We did New Hope, Empire Return, then went back.
That's pretty good.
And she's like, "No." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And she's like, "This isn't real." And then denial. It was pretty great. Last news story.
There's a new Batman in town.
So just.
Has that been confirmed?
Yes.
Basically, it's probably.
I have not read anything that's actually confirmed. They've talked to him and all that.
It's basically between him and Nicholas Hoult. I would say either one. Basically, what happened is normally what happens is an agency puts out that this is happening to get a feel to see if they can upcharge for their actor and or Nicholas Hoult, because Nicholas Hoult wasn't mentioned until way later. His agent put out that Robert Pattinson was up to get fan backlash and everything that's happening on the internet. I'd like to pause and take a moment that I'm betting 90% of people who read that and were really frustrated have not seen any movie that Robert Pattinson has been in since after Twilight.
So I will give it the benefit of the doubt because I have heard that he has improved as an actor.
And I will back that up. That I've seen him in several things now that I think he is really good.
I would say I'll ask you for some recommendations later and I'll watch some stuff that he's been in because the only thing that I really liked him as was Cedric Diggory in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, I'm just like, I initially was like, no, that's a terrible choice. But the more I thought about it, I thought about a whole lot of characters that have been casted as characters and done fine.
The biggest, Heath Ledger,
Michael Keaton. Like, those two characters, like, Michael Keaton played Batman, and people did not think he was going to do a good job. Almost everybody looks back on Michael Keaton's Batman, and we're like, that's the standard for what you want for the baseline Batman. And then you have Heath Ledger's Joker. I remember people complaining and screaming on the internet like we are right now about Robert Pattinson. We did the same thing with Ben Affleck and a lot of other characters who've been cast. Like, it seems like every time a superhero is cast, or even a supervillain, people are like, this sucks, this isn't going to work. But then when it comes out, people are like, oh yeah, that was pretty good, I liked it, they really did a good job. So it's like...
Like, say what we will about BVS, I think Ben Affleck is one of the best parts. Don't agree with what his character does.
Yeah, no, like,
I think
do.
Acting-wise, he's one of the best parts.
His fighting, his characterization is good. I don't like that he's killing people, but I get it in the grand scheme of things. It's a 20-year-old Batman. He's lost a whole lot of crap. We don't see that, but I get it. Like, he was well acted. I thought he did good in BVS. I didn't think he did good in Justice League.
Yeah, well, I didn't think anyone did good in Justice League. So.
No. But except for Henry Cavill at the very end.
Well, that's because he only had to be in it for like 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, but also that's Superman. That's what we always wanted. But no, I think Robert Pattinson... I think it could be good. I'm going to give it some time after the movie comes out, and then I'll be like, was he a good Batman or not? Because to me, there's only been one bad Batman, and that was George Clooney.
Yeah, but granted, this could end up falling apart. But as of
he
now,
could not
I
even
would
get the
say
part.
normally.
Just thinking about it, I could see it.
Yeah.
I'm more upset that we're having an oversaturation of Batmans right now.
Well, they've confirmed it's coming out 2021, so they've got to
They've
if
got to
they're
get
going to
going.
do this,
Yeah.
they start filming November.
Yeah.
So
I actually was curious about this.
we will know. I think the reason it came out is because SDC is next month. No, 2 months. And so they're going to have officially Hook 'em Out on stage. So you probably won't hear an announcement until July.
Yeah.
So, if Robert Pattinson is cast to play Batman, the Batman character will now tie James Bond for the same number of actors who have portrayed the character in a film whenever that movie comes out. So there will have been 7 Bonds and 7 Batmans. And I think that's really cool. But also it just feels like, holy crap, we need to slow down on Batman because 7 different people have played Batman since 1989 versus 7 different people playing James Bond from 63 or 64.
Well, I'm surprised we didn't have 8 people playing James Bond. I'm really surprised that
Craig did another one.
Yeah, after how much he talked about, I hated doing.
I mean, is he really going to turn down that payday though? I don't know. Did he do his stunts in that movie?
He did. He injured himself. Actually, that was
right.
A
That's
report
what I heard.
Did you hear what happened?
Yeah.
He rolled his ankle until they brought him back to the United States to basically have his ankle looked at. And I'm like, this is. I was like, what is happening here?
They had to take him back to the United States to have his ankle looked at.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
I
can see him being frustrated.
Do you have any closing thoughts on Batman since we need to move into these reviews?
Batman's one of my favorite DC characters, so
he's my favorite.
I'm kind of just thinking through this, watching this. I don't want to say anything too much. Just I think he can do it. I just don't want another Batman right now.
Yeah,
I'm still stuck in Christopher Nolan's Batman, so yeah, I'll just leave it there.
So let's do this as from oldest to newest. So let's start with Detective Pikachu and we'll end with Rocket Man.
Okay.
So here's no spoiler talk.
Right.
So we'll just try to do quick thoughts on it. Try to keep this probably under 5 minutes, maybe.
Okay.
So enjoy your little break to get your thoughts for John Wick and Rocket Man. My quick thoughts is Ryan Reynolds is great.
Yes.
I love
Ryan
the
Reynolds
world
is really good.
building, and I like the CGI. And the humor's pretty good too.
Yeah.
What the freak was that?
It was a bird or something.
I thought your phone made a bird noise. I was like, what the heck?
I'm looking for a comment that I made because it was everything I wanted to say about Detective Pikachu that has no spoilers in it. Because for me, it's really hard to not talk about spoilers with this movie. Because it...
So just nothing from the third act.
Yeah. Okay. So, Detective Pikachu is a really cute and fun movie, right?
Yeah.
The Pokemon, to me, for the most part, look exactly like what they do in the games. There was only one that I felt didn't look like the Pokemon, and that was Ludicolo.
I thought Ludicolo looked fine.
Ludicolo looked fine to me, but I felt like the fur on Ludicolo was not as bright as Ludicolo is in the games. That's the one thing for the Pokemon.
So I do want to actually say negative. Gengar, I do agree watching it the second time and looking at him. Mm-hmm. I do see what people are kind of complaining about.
That he's too mist form or whatever.
Even maybe his face just looks weird. It doesn't look like...
See, I didn't feel that, but maybe I'll have to see it again.
It looks odd, but it's not to the point that I'm like, that's bad. I would say that's the worst looking of the Pokemon. That's not even me trying to be like...
Right, and it's not even terrible.
Yeah.
So, okay, rather than talking about what we thought of the film, which Pokemon do you think looked the best?
I mean, it's Pikachu.
Okay, apart from...
Pikachu and Mewtwo look the best. They look...
Yeah. Mewtwo had a 6-pack.
Machamp was also really...
Machamp was really good.
Gyarados, Charizard. Charizard, they finally got his freaking height. That made me so happy. Because Charizard is only 5'10"
He's
5. Or something.
He's not... I'm taller than Charizard.
No, maybe he's 3 foot something. I'm not going to look it up. We'll just...
Charizard's 5'5" or 5'4", something like that. It's surprisingly short. People act like Charizard's this great, huge Pokemon. And I'm like... Nah, dude, I'm taller than Charizard.
Yeah, that's actually weird to think about.
Yeah,
you just think about
there's a lot of
dragon type thing.
He's not actually a dragon.
Well,
Fur is the same height as Charizard. The little freaking ferret.
He's 5'7".
Okay, 5'7". I'm taller than Charizard. I'm not saying I could beat Charizard in a fight, but I tower over Charizard by about 3 inches. No, so I loved all the Pokemon in this movie. I felt like this movie was basically a walking advertisement for the future of Pokemon movies.
Yeah, and this is something I've kind of like. I feel like this movie does two things right.
Mm-hmm.
It is self-contained, so
Yeah.
like if they were like, "Hey, we're never getting another one," I could be like,
Okay.
"Does that suck? Yes."
Yeah.
Did I get to at least enjoy it once? Yeah. And it also sets up the world. It does enough world building with like just little dialogue and like little Easter eggs.
There's little
like,
Easter eggs and stuff. Like, I love the little moments. Like when we see Snorlax in the movie, he's blocking the road,
Yeah.
which is like in the games. I'm like, that's kind of fun.
Well, I mean, like the building is called Oak. Like,
Yeah.
there's enough stuff like set up around. There's like
Right.
the Sinnoh League, the Kanto Leagues.
Mhm.
You see a bunch of posters. You see a bunch of like just little bits of dialogue,
Right,
which I won't
like
ruin.
you-
One of them is like it's just said real quick, and you're like, oh, so this
Yeah.
is why this
You
is
see,
happening.
You see, like, even just pictures of, like, legendary Pokemon on walls or,
Yeah.
like, balloons of them. So it's like, oh, so even, like, the legendary Pokemon, like, people know what they are, where
Yeah.
they're from, and, like, how important they are.
And this world feels like it is what our world would be like if Pokemon came into
Right.
it.
So the best thing about, like, the main city that they're in is that, like, Pokemon just get to exist freely with people.
Yeah,
Which I think is really cool.
it is. But I also hated the opening because I just want that.
Yeah.
The opening, he's at a different city and he tries to capture a Pokemon. And it's just like,
Oh, yeah, him
right
trying to
there,
catch
I was like,
Pokemon.
I felt it in my heart. I was like, this is my childhood.
Yeah.
The music was also really great.
Mm-hmm. I love when Pikachu sings the theme song.
Oh my gosh.
That was so funny. Because, like, he's not happy while he's singing. He's, like, kind of sad. Like, that's kind of a spoiler, but not really. Like, I won't say why. But, like, I loved that we saw, like, all the starter Pokemon from Gen 1. Like, that to me was a big thing. Like, we saw Charizard, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur throughout the entire film.
Yeah, so let's talk, though, like, as a movie.
Okay.
I don't like the human characters.
I do not mind the main character.
Tim is okay at best for
Yeah.
me.
And I don't mind the reporter girl as much now that I've thought about it more. She's not like a great, fantastic character or anything, but like,
Cosmonaut did the best description of it.
Yeah, he
and
did.
I don't completely agree with him, but at the same time, they look good that way. It's easier for me to justify it.
I
That
feel
they
like
feel
I'm
like
look-
Saturday morning cartoon
yeah, I was gonna say
characters.
they feel like their characters meant for that particular audience. They're appealing to like a 7 to 10-year-old demographic, so that those kids enjoy the movie more. Like at the end of the day, this movie was not meant for us. This movie was meant for kids.
Right, and so that's
So
what,
like,
now the villains are terrible.
yeah,
And the problem is, they do something. This isn't like a. I guess I'm gonna spoil something, because it's not a spoiler. It's something that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mist they're going to figure out, and it's the
Oh, yeah.
R mist. It's called R, and the
And
R
everybody's
looks like a rocket R. It looks
Yeah.
like the Team Rocket logo R.
so we're like, ooh.
And so when they don't lead into that, I'm like, oh.
But I mean, that could just be an Easter egg to be like, look, this is what we want to do. We're setting all this other stuff out.
And that's what I said. If this
So, like-
if this leads into something more, then I'll take back my argument here. I don't think the villains are great.
Right.
But if it doesn't, then if it does, then I mean, yeah. But if
Yeah.
not, then it sucks. So closing thoughts on it.
I enjoyed it, but I didn't go for the story. I don't think most people are. I think you're going to see the Pokemon on screen.
Yes.
Like, I was just like, oh, there's that Pokemon, there's that Pokemon, there's that Pokemon. I almost, like, leapt out of my seat when I saw Arcanine. So I was just like, my big old fire pupper is here. Like, it was nice to see all these Pokemon because, like, I never would have thought Pokemon would happen. Like, to me, I was like, that's the anime that they could never do because there's just so many different Pokemon, especially now. Like, remember back in the day when we all thought 151 was a lot? Now there's like 812 or something like that. And it's just like, how? Like, how can you do this movie and have it make sense and have all these Pokemon involved and be like, this is happening? Like, you have Pikachu going and, like, talking to different Pokemon, like Mr. Mime or an Aipom.
The Mr. Mime scene was really good.
I liked the Mr. Mime scene.
So
It was fun. The biggest complaint is, like, if you don't know what Pokemon is, you're going to probably struggle a little bit with this movie, which was the one thing that I was like, if they can just explain Pokemon fully and what they are, like, even with just, like, a couple quick, like, sentences and, like, narration or something, it'll help people understand. I feel like they don't really do that. I feel like this movie is like, you either know what Pokemon are and you're here to enjoy the ride, or you don't and you're here for a cute kids movie, and I think that they should have not done that. I would say it's a 7 out of 10.
yeah, so my first thing is I'm gonna have to eat crow, which I hate.
Yeah.
I
do
thought
too.
it was gonna be $1 billion, mainly not even like just because I thought this movie would be one better.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I thought it would be easier for people who didn't know Pokemon to watch.
Yeah, and we were wrong.
And I thought, and that was my problem. So you were right.
I get to say I told you so. Brandon does this to me all the time. So eat it.
But I felt like, and this was my fear, and I was like, this is the worst case scenario. And unfortunately, it did end up that.
I do still think there's a chance for a big Pokemon franchise.
I do think like a movie that's like Red or Blue or something that is not Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
But I'm never gonna say that one will make $1 billion. If it happens, it happens because of just what it is. But like,
Yeah, I think that you and I both were expecting something different than what we got. Because to me, I was like, this is about to be the craziest Pokemon movie of all time. Like, people are going to love it.
yeah.
And people just didn't turn out for it as much as I was expecting. And we could say, well, that's because of Endgame and all these other movies that are coming
I don't think
out.
it would have mattered.
I don't think it would have mattered,
Because
yeah.
you're looking like even international numbers, which is what we were banking
Right.
on. Like China and Japan didn't eat it up like I thought they would.
Yeah, I was especially thinking Japan was going to be like, oh, we got to go see this now.
But
If it was Japan making the film, I think it would have done better
you
for
could,
that audience.
yeah. But so like closing on that, I would say the movie is a solid 7. I agree with that. Is that I really like it. I enjoyed a lot being a Pokemon fan. Like growing up with this franchise, I love it. Like, and this is the hardest thing for me was, like, as a Pokemon fan, this movie's like a 9. Like,
Yeah.
I love it for that. But like sitting down and like as a movie,
general movie, it's
separating
not,
that, it's a 7. And so like that's the thing that hurts me is that like I wanted this to be a 9 to be like this movie has everything going for it. It just needs the audience to turn out for it. But instead that wasn't the case. So, like, I enjoy it. If you're a fan of Pokemon in any way, if you've ever been a fan of Pokemon, you know what they are, then it's easy to jump into this.
Yeah.
But if not, we've taken a few people who weren't familiar with Pokemon, and they were like, I enjoy it for the jokes and the humor, but, like, at the end of the day, I don't really understand a lot of what's happening.
Sure.
Which is fair. I didn't understand a lot was happening because, like, Detective Pikachu is one of the games I've never played.
Yeah, I've never played it.
Like, overall, I do think Detective Pikachu was probably the smartest choice because it's easier to understand as a concept.
It's a generic story set within the Pokemon universe.
But I think the next one needs to not be Detective Pikachu 2, but instead
an actual
a Red and
movie on its
Blue or
own.
something. But we'll see. So, moving on, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. I don't really know story-wise what you can really spoil in this.
Well, I mean, there's some stuff.
No, there's a lot of killing.
There is some stuff that happens, especially towards the very
I guess
end.
like the ending where it leads to
what will be a sequel. Like,
hopefully, maybe, we'll see.
I think it's pretty much going to happen. It'll probably be a few years, but
so Keanu does great, still great.
yeah, I love that he still does all his own stunts and everything. The choreography is still really good. Like, the fighting is good. The kills are just as brutal as the last few movies. The very first kill in the movie is really good. The library.
Oh yeah.
Like, I love a lot of stuff that's going on. Like, the best part about the John Wick movies is, like, John Wick is such a man of mystery for us. So, like, you know, like, in the first movie, we have no idea who John Wick is or anything. And, like, we see him get all these guns and he goes on this massacre rampage. And, like, he's this most, like, respected assassin in, like, the entire world. And then, like, in the second movie, we learn about, like, how he got out and everything. And he has this mark. And then in this third movie, right at the beginning, he goes and, like, gets this stuff to help him with the 1 hour that he has. And it's like John Wick had a backup plan for this moment, essentially, and it helped set the film in motion for, like, how he meets Halle Berry's character and stuff.
Which, again, no third act spoilers, nothing. Like, we'll try to keep kills to a low because that's, like, what you watch the movie for. So,
like, it's hard to talk about this movie and not be like, well, I really enjoyed this moment where John killed a guy with this or whatever. Like, I love that, like, all the characters are back in this movie. Like, it's not just John Wick. Like, they have Winston and they have Lawrence Fishburne's character back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fun.
My favorite thing, I love John Wick. I always have loved John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
The first scene
Yeah.
was one of my favorite scenes in all of John Wick's, action-wise. Like,
yeah.
just deaths.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't disappointed by this movie at all. I know
It's
some
good.
people were comparing to the other ones, and they're like, well, this isn't as good. You know, you guys were talking about it a little bit. I think this is as good. it's hard to compare the other movies because like this one didn't have maybe as big of a plot. It was a basic plot, and that's most of his movies are not very intricate.
You're going for like the crazy stunts and the gun fu and everything.
I would argue that the plot in 2 and 3 have gotten more lore building, and I could discuss in a spoiler talk, and we could discuss later. Whatever, and you probably understand where I'm coming from, especially with some of the stuff that happens. John Wick 1 is very self-contained.
Yeah, that's
like honestly, if you told me
opening, there's a little bit of an opening of opportunities where it can go in different. It's not worlds necessarily, but like okay, there's like a whole other thing that we didn't ever know about.
But you understand what I'm talking about? Is that like 1 is very self-contained, 2 kind of introduces so much stuff, and then 3 is like okay, there's even more, and so like if we get
it barely flirts with it, but you don't hear too much about it, and just enough to where it go okay.
Yeah, outside of like the latter half of the movie where it starts to introduce some stuff,
with
and you're
no
like,
spoilers.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, let's I need a minute to take this all in.
Yeah,
but like
I really enjoyed it from start to finish. I could easily go back to the movie theater right now and just watch all that all over again and be completely okay. I think this is the most gory.
For sure. Especially when you're watching them all, this is the most gory.
They were the most creative on the kills.
Yeah, except for a lot of crotch shots. Felt like there was a lot of punching in the crotch.
Well, I mean, after John Wick 2, when he stabs the guy with the knife, like, right in the crotch, I'm like, well, that's going to be something they do now.
I felt like I was like, oh, like, ooh.
There was a lot of moments where I was like, ooh.
I was doing a lot more of that throughout, like, and even you mentioned the library scene or whatever. That scene,
that kill was really.
Well, I think the movie desensitized me as it went on because I started going ooh, and then at the end I was like,
yeah, okay.
I was like, is that it? Like, you ain't gonna push his eyeballs out of his head or something like.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Come on, John, you were more brutal 20 minutes ago.
It takes him a couple years to think of all the different types of kills. Yeah. They're like, okay, well, we
gotta
gotta
get this. I like to think Keanu Reeves is just sitting down with a notebook and he's like writing things down. And he's like,
how would I murder this person?
How would I murder this person?
They just set the scene and they go, okay, so you have these objects around you.
Yeah.
What would you like to kill him with?
It's whatever's in John's house or Keanu's house.
I'm going to choke one man with the cord of a fire extinguisher and bash the other man's head with it while spraying the other third guy. Like, I don't know. Like, I just made that up. That doesn't actually happen. That'd be kind of
cool. John Wick 4. That's the first kill in the movie.
Scene, you're like,
I'd be like, Keanu Reeves listens to our podcast.
But I feel like this movie's hard to review because you do want to talk about the kills, but at the end of the day, it's really like, it's really well acted. Mm-hmm. It's still the action's still really good. It still flows very naturally.
The one that I really want to talk about, but we can't talk about.
Yeah, so. I love like just how big this world is getting.
Yeah,
like it's really cool because like almost every country has its own or like major location in the world has its own version of like the Continental.
Yeah.
Like in John Wick 2 we see like the Continental in Rome and all this other stuff. So it's like no matter where John goes, there's going to be people looking for him because this contract is international from the end of the second film. Which I thought was really cool. Like it's not just contained in New York.
The only thing that I had maybe a little skepticism was the desert. When he went out to the desert or whatever.
And all that stuff happens, yeah.
And all that stuff.
A lot of people were feeling... I've heard a lot of people talk about that, and they're like, yeah...
I have some problems with the third act, which is why I don't like it as much.
Right, like maybe in a week or two we can talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah,
because I'll probably see John Wick 3 again.
That would be the only thing I could insert that would be like, okay,
that is my negative, is that there's parts in the third act where and this is like... I feel like John... There's too many moments where I felt like John should have died. Like,
yeah.
This isn't like... And like, trying to not spoil it, but like...
It felt like there was some plot armor for John.
Way too much. And so
especially because like you have to think about this entire trilogy as being like... You have the first John Wick movie, and then I looked it up. The second movie takes place 4 days after that, and then the third movie is right after that. So John is like killed... however many people in like basically a week.
I can't wait to hear what the total is.
Gotten destroyed.
And when it's all said and done.
It's like at some point John's got to be exhausted and like somebody's going to get the better of him. Like especially when there's like 10 or 15 guys trying to kill you in one room.
My real complaint, I guess we should probably wrap this up because I mean if not we're going to start spoiling it.
Yeah.
It's just like I said, there's moments where I was like there's heavy plot armor on him. Yeah. So overall I give the movie a 9. Well, an 8.5. Because I don't think it's better than 1, but I think it's as good as 2.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. 8.5 is a good score. I'm kind of leaning towards like a 9, but I think John Wick 1 is probably like a 9.5 or a 10. I think it's that good.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's hard to be like, yeah, this movie's not as good as the other ones, but they're all good.
Yeah, I do think they're all great, and like they're some of my favorite action
movies
franchises.
They're like our normal scale of rating movies. This one is just at normal because they're really. I mean, there is a plot.
This is a.
But it's hard because you're just.
yeah.
It's like
It's just you're just watching him, and this one
You're
you did
learning
not stop and
things.
breathe
Yeah,
hardly at all.
honestly, this
in
is-
between the action, you're learning a little bit, and then you're right back in the action.
this
So,
is like Mission Impossible to me, where like I do like the characters a lot more in Mission Impossible, but like I'm here for the action, and so like
Yeah.
John
Yeah,
Wick,
and you're ready to go at
or even
that
like
point.
Mad Max Fury Road, I think is a 10, and it's just action.
Yeah.
Never really takes a break for like plot, and if it
There's,
does,
like,
it's very
very
little.
little.
And so like that's like for me, John Wick rides that line too much of like not enough. I mean, it's always action, but sometimes I'm like, if you want to build this world, take a minute to breathe and like.
Yeah.
Give me like an extra 5 minutes of a movie and just like explain some more stuff.
And
Which
I think they opened it up a little bit.
oh, they do.
so
There's a lot, and there's one
better.
thing. There's one other thing. Not a spoiler. I won't say it. There's one other thing that kind of frustrated me, which we can talk about afterwards. That just was a little annoyance, but that's like the only reason. But overall, yeah. So
I would probably give it a 9. I don't really when I sit in the theater and I'm ready to go, I'm like I'm gonna grab my popcorn and I'm gonna watch a lot of people die and a lot of gruesome deaths, and it is what it is.
yeah,
So
it's fun.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, and like, it did not it did not disappoint.
No,
And-
I was thinking
And there was
that. I was
more.
like,
I think there was more creativity, and I think they one upped from John Wick 2 on the creativity of
for
the
like
at
kills
least.
and stuff.
So,
Yeah, no, I
I think
was just
they
like,
all have
there
unique kills
there's
in
gonna
each
come a
one of them,
point where like when I'm watching the John Wick movies that it's all going to start to feel monotonous if they do like 7 or 8 films. I'm gonna be like, okay, at some
And he
point
has-
there's nothing new
Right.
to
and
do.
he has said that he's wanting to do this for a long time.
which that's
Right.
my concern is because I think the fourth one is gonna maybe overstay its welcome.
Yeah,
and that's what I started to worry about.
we need
my
to be careful
just from what
with,
we
like-
know, the fourth one sounds like it should be the end.
Yeah. Now, granted, I thought the third one was going to be the end.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, like, I'm worried that anyway, we can talk about it more, though, like a prediction date and, like, later. We'll give it a week, maybe.
My boy John needs a bed and a massage
But let's move into the one that
and some tacos.
Y'all are gonna talk about Rocket Man.
Okay.
Touchdown rings as
So,
identified.
Rocket Man.
Rocket Man.
I've gotten to see Elton John live. I've gotten to be on the stage with Elton John. So this is a really cool thing.
That's
for me.
cool.
So I really enjoyed this movie. It was done differently than I thought it was going to be done.
This is how I wanted Bohemian Rhapsody to be. for me.
Yes.
I was gonna
And
ask
I was,
you guys
I was
that
gonna,
because
I was going to point that out. That I was thinking about that on the drive back home after I watched that. I'm like, I wonder what it would have been like if that's how.
But
Bohemian-
let me explain by what I mean by this, because I explained to people at lunch because everyone was like asking me about it, and I feel like this movie, if you let Elton John, because Elton John did have a huge hand in this, which can be pros and cons because they can be
Lie.
like, hey, well, lie, but like also be like, this person was worse than they were, or this moment wasn't as bad for me.
I do have a couple points with that, but
Yeah.
let's.
But I feel like
That.
so the movie is paced. It's a musical, it's a musical with Elton's music.
That's really cool.
But I feel like as the movie progresses, it starts to become more jumbled in a good way. I feel like the movie is from Elton's perspective on the drugs. And so, like, a musical number happens while he's on the drugs.
Yeah.
And while it's happening, so when he lands back down after the musical number is down, is he comes off the high of the drugs.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of depressing. It's a lot of, like, over him, like, sitting on that. And, like, us, the audience, coming down with him
Yeah.
from those amazing
And you
moments
can
of,
just
like...
kind of breathe for a second,
Yeah.
and you're kind of trying to collect everything. One of the unique things about Elton John, now every artist, especially back then, first they're all high and they're all on drugs for the most part, but they're all writing and they're singing from emotion. They're singing about their surroundings, about what's going on, their emotions, whatever's going on. Half of it's because they're high, half of it's because life is depressing
Yeah.
and they're wanting to write about it, or sometimes the good
Sounds
things
like
about
my
life.
movie.
But Elton John, what I really enjoyed about this is it is kind of a musical, it's kind of a weird split.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. Like, I almost have trouble describing what it was. It felt like a Broadway show to an extent.
Yeah,
Which is what I imagine Elton John biopic to be
and,
like.
yeah, and I'm not a huge musical person.
Yeah.
But I love his music. So as you're kind of you're trying to figure out his life a little bit because I didn't really know a lot about it. You knew a little bit, and it's kind of a
Yeah.
generic story a little bit. which this is real. This isn't a made up film or anything. So as the music's kind of playing, you're starting to hear indications of the songs that were being wrote correlating with his life. And that's what I think was brilliant about this movie, is that they did it in a way where cinematically it correlated so well with the music. And he did, what's his face that played Elton?
Taron Egerton.
Yeah, I think he did phenomenal.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I have so much praise for every actor in this movie.
Yeah.
Every actor and actress. My gosh. I'm actually getting like goosebumps again thinking about the movie. Cause,
I want to see it again.
I do. I want to go back.
Yeah.
When does that come out for everybody
May
to see?
30th is the first night you can see it, which is the same weekend as Godzilla, unfortunately. But
well, I'll be probably seeing both that weekend. So.
Man, I'm trying to come down again.
Yeah. The kid that played him when he was younger,
It was so good. Oh my gosh.
Good.
I'm always worried when a kid actor comes up.
Yep.
And I was like,
And you don't know how long they're going to play in the movie because they're doing his life, right? But I mean, that kid, and then he comes back for a little bit later on as a flashback kind of thing, and I'm like, dang, like that kid hit it out of the park.
yeah, there's a moment towards the last. If you show me the last 10 minutes of this movie again, I was crying my eyes out at the end of this movie because like it.
You reflect on your own life.
Well, that and
some
like
too,
it's.
so.
I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to ruin the movie.
Yeah.
But like it gets super emotional and super heavy. Like the way the movie's told also is really interesting. I won't ruin, but like the movie's opening is a lot different than I expected. Like the very opening minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, okay, this is how we're gonna start. And so like that sets the tone for the rest of the movie, and that also explains why it's like this, why it's jumbled.
Yeah.
And so it's. I want to, like, I
thought the exact same thing when I'm not going to say it, but, like, at the very beginning, you're like, okay, so I thought this was, like, more of a stage-by-stage kind of thing, not a reflection kind of thing. But then you realize it is a stage-by-stage thing.
Right.
As in a reflection.
Yeah. And, like, I felt for Elton. There were several moments where I'm like, man, you had a terrible life. And, like, I feel awful for everything that's happened to you throughout this. And, like, you deserve the happiness you have now. The music I thought was used really well.
Yeah.
I actually forgot some of the songs he had written, so when they started playing, I was like, oh, right, Elton John did that.
Yeah, and there's a few songs. I mean, I know all of his music pretty well, and I've listened to it thousands of times. My mother, when I lived with her when I was little, she played his music all the time. And so those are memories that brought up to me. So this is a very memorable movie for me because I was thinking about my childhood and stuff, and some of that reflected my childhood was kind of similar to his a little bit on some things, not all of it. Don't
now
too much.
Quick question. Could you hear the women behind us?
A little. I was dealing with a guy 2 seats down from me that was talking through the whole movie.
There were 3 women who talked the entire time, and I wanted so badly to. I should have written an order card and been like,
I was gonna say,
kick them out.
Have a problem with a loud table? Raise an order card.
But I was out of curious because that ruined part of my.
I had issues with that guy because he kept on whispering to the guy next to me, and he wasn't even whispering. It was like a light talk because he was singing some of it. So it was getting louder, and he was like raising his voice. But I'm like, I can't hear that going on. I hear you raising your. But
the last big moment at the end, they're like, I bet it's going to be this. And I want to turn around and be like, yes, of course it's going to be this. Shut up and let me enjoy this.
Well, and most people, I mean, if you know anything about his life or anything, you know where this is all going. It's not like a suspenseful thing. I mean, but the people that don't know about some of his life, which I didn't know, there's a lot of things I didn't really know.
I don't know really anything about
I knew about his parents, and I knew kind of how he grew up a little bit,
and that's what I told
relationships a little bit.
That's what I told my mom when we walked out. I was like, I know Elton's life now. I know like this amazing relationship. I understand where he is now. So I was like, when the movie started and things were happening, I was like, whoa. I was like, why is this happening? I was like, Elton has this now, and so I was like, really, it was really interesting to watch, and I was like, it's crazy because I know Elton this way. To see him this way is really cool.
Well, and his partner. Not his.
So Rob Stark is in the movie,
right?
And I'm gonna address an elephant in the room. There is a lot of controversy or praise, depending on who you want to look at. This movie is the first gay sex scene, which I felt like is being blown out of proportion. Of that, it is a sex scene.
Yes,
but it's like a PG. I really feel like this movie was meant to be PG-13, and just include a few other F words.
Was it rated R?
It's R.
So if I looked at this, I would not say it would be classified as rated R just because that sex scene was not a sex scene.
You see a butt. You don't see any humping. There's none of that. It kind of confused me on why it was rated R. But I
thought this was it because I knew there was one scene, and so as it was starting, that scene was starting to happen. I'm like, okay, this is gonna get. Really
I was like
weird.
really worried. I was like, we're gonna have to leave. I was like, I can't do this. And then it just ends. And I was like, I leaned up and I was like, wait. I was like, we really doing this? I was like, granted, I don't want to get into this. I don't like approve of it, but like, I feel like it's like Beauty and the Beast again, except it is a sex scene, but it's an R-rated movie.
So they took it and put it way out of proportion for like one minor thing.
Kind of. It is probably the first gay sex scene you've seen where they like make out and their shirts are off, and like it starts to like move into that. But it's like any sex scene in any movie,
right? Where
it doesn't show. Well, I mean, like I guess not any. It just doesn't show anything. But like,
it doesn't go to the point where it's like this is too far.
Yeah. But anyway, so Rob is in it, Rob Stark, and I leaned to my mom. I'm gonna have to show you, and I was like, I was trying to do Rob, but instead I go. And my mom thought it was time for the sex scene. And I didn't move my mouth enough and I moved my head too much. And my mom was like, ugh. I was like, why? We like Rob. We all like Rob Stark. But I thought, like, even him, he's like, it proved that he's a good actor because I was worried he's heavily rumored to be in the new Marvel movies, Eternals, as one of the leads. Oh, yeah. And so I was really worried. I was like, show me that you can act outside of Game of Thrones. Because Emilia Clarke showed she struggles, and so did Kit Harington. So I'm like, please show me that, like, you can. And when he did, I believed every moment with him. Like, he was such a good actor.
There really wasn't any poor acting.
No.
I think throughout the thing. His mom, the lady that plays his mom, was kind of okay. She was just irritating as a character.
But I feel like
as a person, I guess.
I feel like she's supposed to.
Well, I don't wanna, that's the hard part. Right, is like this is depicting. Depicting. Yes, I can't talk. Depicting.
Right, but it's all from Elton's perspective. So you think of like how did Elton view everything when he was going through this, and so I think that's what we're supposed to
on
feel.
Drugs.
Yeah, is
that's
that
the other thing
Elton
too.
feel well, and like in the beginning because it's less jumbled. Is that like again as we see it, the progression because he loved. I won't ruin it, but like you get it. You get where it's coming from. And
there's
like,
a scene. This really won't spoil anything. Where he's with, like, he sees his father or whatever with the kids, and that scene I could see that maybe it wasn't as bad as it probably could have went from his perspective, because he saw it one way, and if he was on drugs or something, maybe he determined what that was happening was completely different.
When we saw even after that, he liked the scenes more. I do think all the musical numbers were really cool. It's again, when we finished the movie, I looked at my mom and my fiance, and I was like, this is how I imagine an Elton John biopic. If you sat down with me and you're like, how would you imagine an Elton John biopic? It's this. It's a Broadway musical that's over the top. That is a fantasy, almost a fantasy movie.
Yeah.
Of like,
and I usually would stay away from that, to be honest, because that's not really what I like to do. Because it's way out and just kooky and whatever you want to say. But I think they flirted with some of that. And they got to the point where you're like, okay, this is a little weird, but then they kept on progressing instead of staying stuck on those things.
And I feel like it's supposed to be weird. And like again, this is like again, I feel like this is exactly what Elton would do. Like if you were like give Elton John, let him direct it, but like but like if you let Elton John oversee everything, it'd be like, this is how I want it. This is exactly what I imagined.
Yeah, and I mean it's his life, so I mean,
yeah. Mike, so my closing thought is that I was pleasantly blown away from this movie.
This is a movie that I especially that first 3 minutes or so, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna really like.
Yeah, I was really worried the first number.
But once I started realizing where they were going with it, I'm like, okay, because I did not know a single thing about this movie.
Yeah, I just saw that it was getting good reviews. I saw it had a standing ovation at.
I didn't even know. I came in here completely not knowing anything about the movie except it's about Elton John. Yeah. And whatever I saw on the preview or whatever. So.
Yeah, the ending is really emotional. Really hit me home.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, like, I was genuinely surprised. I felt such a level of emotion.
Yeah, it definitely. There are certain parts where I got emotional. I hardly ever get emotional about anything. So I definitely felt, and that's due to the acting. I mean, that's one thing, and the music ties into it too. Yeah. But the acting itself was, phenomenal. So for me, I'm having a hard time not giving it a 10, to be honest.
I'm giving it a 9.5 only because I believe no film is perfect.
Yes, so that's where I have to give it a 9.5 because the 10 is just so hard for me to.
But I also don't think this movie's for everyone.
Yeah.
I think Bohemian Rhapsody, this is where it's going to come down to, and I think people are going to compare them, is that Bohemian Rhapsody is so easy to digest of like, I think anyone could watch that and it'd be super easy, and because it's a straight biopic, there's some of the Queen songs in it, but it's much easier, where this is like completely whack, completely over the top of like, I don't think this is one of those easy ones to watch. And I do think the gay sex scene is going to cause it go one way or the
a
other.
little bit,
but again,
and with whoever, the whole sex scene, obviously it's uncomfortable. I don't enjoy watching.
I don't approve of it, and but
at the same time, it's very minimal. It does his story well because it's part of his life.
Yeah,
they're depicting his life. Everybody knows Elton John is gay. That's part of his build-up.
Actually, not everyone.
Well, John was okay. 99% of people know that Elton John is gay by just looking at him.
And the reason it's in there, and I feel like I'm only addressing it because I feel like I'm going to get a bunch of backlash for seeing it. And so, like, Elton's life, that was an important moment. And that's why I was reading an article.
It's a big part of it. Yeah.
That moment was
they didn't waste that scene on just because it was a sex scene.
Yeah.
They made that scene because they wanted to show that the emotion in part of his story.
And John's growth of that after that.
Exactly.
He was willing to come out of the closet that he was gay, and so
and that's a big thing for him. So, and it always has been. He's always talked about it and stuff. And so I really that's one thing. It is what it is, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do like it, you do like it. I didn't enjoy it by any means.
Yeah.
But it's part of it. It was maybe 2 minutes.
If not even, I think it's like 30 seconds. It's in the musical number, but it's at the end of the musical number.
Yeah.
And it cuts away a lot. So, like,
seeing anything, I mean, maybe 30 seconds.
If that scene's going to bother you, just wait for DVD release. You can pause right before anything really happens. You'll know. Just pause and skip over. I think this movie is well worth the watch besides that moment. Like,
yeah,
I think
I would hate for somebody,
if you've ever been curious about this movie and you're like, I want to know more, I want to watch
I would hate for you not to watch the movie because of that scene. As much as that kind of goes against the grain of what I've always thought about certain movies, of you taking a stand on certain things you disagree with or whatever the case may be. But for this movie, it is too good for you just to, skip that 30 seconds, whatever it is. You know what's about to happen kind of thing. It's not like it's just a straight black and white kind of shot of it.
I'm glad it wasn't graphic. I'm glad it was kind of just real quick.
Yeah, and that's the best. And I think in most sexual scenes in movies,
I think that's how movies should.
It's how it should be. Let it be known that there was something happen.
Yeah.
But do we all need to see it? No, there's no reason for us to see it. We all know what that's going to look like or whatever, so it doesn't matter. Let's just get on to the rest of the thing.
Like it's
you
not
explained why there was an emotional toll on Elton at that point, and we got that. So for me, I love the movie. I enjoyed it from start to finish, especially towards the end.
Oh my gosh!
Because I was wondering where it was going to stop at, to be honest. I didn't know where he was going to end up. Because I'm like, is it going to about now, or is it how he's kind of flooded through? Because right now, if you guys don't know, he is in his last tour going through.
Well, he stopped. It said at the end of the movie that he ended his tour. He finished up his last tour to spend time with his new kids.
No, it's still going. He has one more year of it. We actually missed the tickets. He was in Kansas City here recently. He's been traveling.
Huh. The movie definitely said he was
called his farewell tour.
Huh.
And it's going on right now. So he has, I believe, one more year. I don't know. That was kind of confusing. They were talking about at the end of the movie. It says that he's on his last tour. He will be after that. He's done. And he wants to focus time more on his kids. He did an announcement on it. So I've been looking to get tickets. I want to see him one more time, kind of thing. So. But I thought Elton John was. I think the movie was really good. So
it was weird that it said. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I was just weird because the movie said, "Oh, he's got till 2020."
Yeah, one more year.
That's weird because the movie said. I was like, "Oh, maybe the movie was meant to come out at the end of 2021." But anyway, 9.5, solid recommendation. Again, gay sex scene. It's.
I think this is the highest I've ever rated a movie on here.
So,
that was an in-game for me, yeah.
Do you guys think that the only reason that Taron Egerton was cast as Elton John was because of Kingsman: The Golden Circle?
I thought you were going to say because of Sing.
No.
Where he sung, I'm Still Standing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he sung "I'm Still Standing." Well, that was actually Sing was part of the reason he got the cast was because.
I was gonna say, is it because he became good friends with Elton John on the set of that movie? Because
Well, they probably filmed both at the same time, but
maybe.
But he would be the actor for. I mean, he looks kind of like a younger version.
yeah. Now that I've seen him, I do.
See, like, being that I haven't seen the movie yet, like, I'm trying to just like kind of zone out in case like I just catch something. I'm like, oh well.
I can't imagine any other actor being.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
my
like
God,
seeing the trailer, I was like, that looks like Elton John.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, that looks like a younger Elton John. Like, so
This
like
is
for me, I'm looking forward to seeing the movie.
This is
Like-
very little mention to it, but when he combs his hair down, like there's like the little part. Where
Oh,
he's
yeah.
Looking,
Yeah.
that for whatever reason for me, I'm like, that's when it happened. Because Elton John's known for his hair just kind of going straight down. Now,
Sure.
Whatever, but
All right, so again, 9.5 from both of us. So
Yep.
Thank you for listening. Please check out all these movies.
John
when
Wick,
they come
Detective Pikachu, Rocket Man when it comes out.
Out.
Go see Endgame again.
Yeah, we're almost beating Avatar. We're
We're
173 million away.
173 million away from passing it completely, which is huge.
Next week's episode is a preview again, is Aladdin and Game of Thrones full series talk.
yep, it's coming out in a few hours. Oh my gosh.
Might have a guest. We'll see. It depends on what we can get done.
We're probably going to fight. Like,
Anyway, I'm Brandon.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Ryan. Make sure you subscribe to us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, awesome. If you're listening to us on iTunes, awesome. If you want to listen to us on SoundCloud, that's awesome.
Apple
Google,
Podcasts is also awesome.
well, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, whatever. I don't even know anymore. And then, hopefully, we have a new platform next week.
Which we're starting ourselves.
Wait, what?
And don't forget to subscribe to Jittery Jack and Ape at
On
Jittery Jack and Ape.
twitch.tv/jitteryjackanape. I'm going to try to actually start streaming every Saturday. Like, that's the plan since it's summertime now. Like, I'm not as busy.
Summertime.
So, we'll see how that goes.
But thanks for listening.